6/23, 2012, 12:22 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Why is it a good day? Because this is called the S&P 500. That's exactly what it's called. And not only is it called that, this is the S&P 500 index at 1335, up 9.5 handles. What do we have? We have the Supreme Court healthcare coming out. We've got major central bankers around the world coming out, all starting Monday. And we are looking at both the high level of commitment at the 1390 massive call buying on a weekly level of 13,000 contracts for a weekly. That is massive call buying. That's that 1390. Now, one of the other ones that we featured was that 1370 call up and out of the money. And 7,300 contracts traded. That 1350 call up and out of the money. MMT 480 by 510. 380 bid, 480 ask, last 510. 6,600 contracts traded for the weekly. And when we take a look over here at the put side in the commitment, we can see that there was 11,900 massive put buying at the 1,300 strike for the weekly. And not only that, they were barreling in at the 1310 put strike, 4,100, 5,000 shares, MMTs at the 1315s below the hip. So you can see for a weekly level, in my view, if you take a look at the previous open interest, but the amount of this day volume, you have some, look at here, the 1310 traded 4,100, prior open interest 3,900. That was a big increase here on the daily volume. And almost right here in that 1315, I mean, they piled in at 5,400 contracts there. Open interest was 5,900 MMTs. We're going to be making markets, and that's down below here. So when we take a look at the put side, we take a look at the fact that 23,000 massive weekly call put options, and this is the June 29th. And today is 6/23. But look at that massive 1275 put buying. Look at that massive volume at that strike price. And they even went as far as to trade 9,000 of the 1225s down here as well. And we can clearly see that the put side does have some daily increased volume going into the major volatility that the markets will be faced with as far as the Obama healthcare plan and your worldwide central bankers, your European austerities. Here is the call and put structure. Will be up and out of the money MMTs. We'll have below the money put options. We can clearly see where that massive put buying was on a weekly. I mean, that's outstanding number of put options that were traded on that volume open interest. So once again, we're going to be featuring the S&P put options. One of the things that we will cover right now here in the background is the S&P 500 has rallied off of that bottom into that 10 weekly moving average, sold off up at the 20 week, put in that this is a 3-week pattern. We do know that the amount of volatility that people will be confronted with, or public volatility that is that we're going to make markets in either one of the scenarios, whether they want to bang that up. But we do know that we've had some pretty good moves and some pretty good setups. And there's a lot at stake next week for the bulls. And the bears are right behind them. They're very close. They're in a real bull and bear fight. Once again, we will teach all MMTs how to be market makers in S&P 500 index options, and understanding where we're at on the weekly trend analysis and where those major resistance levels are going to be, and how the calls can pay up and out of the money, and also how the puts can pay when things don't go bad. And we had a huge selling program that hit Thursday during this rally on this weekly level. This big weekly reversal bar right here up toward the high, the 2 week breakout, happened on Thursday, one day. And that's quite common when you're putting bottoms in and you have austerity packages in play. Never fight the Fed, but rather understand where the upper end of resistance levels and selling into those will happen, and understanding the call and put ratio, both parties on the index, will also be a major factor in factoring out price levels, MMTs. Once again, you have to close above the 10-week to be more of a bull. The upper end of the resistance channels in volatility gap open up, that may gap open up on good news. We could get a huge rally out of these markets all the way back up to here. If news comes out that people like, then that means that the bear could get in trouble and get a short squeeze. 1372 is right up here. Right up here is 1388 on the S&P. So there is any wall of resistance at any levels, just like last week. They will sell into it up here. So we take the gains off the bottom and sell up at the top at resistance, buy puts when this is up here, buy the calls when they're down here. Right now the S&P 500 is sitting on that 10-week moving average. If news is not favorable next week, then the markets will sell off. Period. So I will tell you that the Supreme Court decision is going to be a major event that could come Monday. It won't matter what happens in the S&P 500 or markets at all. One side of the market's going to pay big. If we take the upside of the market, we get our money, we get our profits, but then we get net short right away because it's going to go right back down at the key resistance levels. And this is the S&P 500 major resistance levels within this bottom. There's the 20-week moving average, MMT, right here, the red line, and you can see it right here. The red line is the 20-week, and that is the 10-week, and the 10-week is declining in value. So that means at the upper end of resistance levels, you have to close 4 weeks above the 10-week, 4 weeks above the 10-week. The 10-week has to flatten out and point up, can't be declining, before you can say that the bull would be fully back in charge. Right now it's going to be headline independent. I mean, you're going to have more headlines coming out everywhere that could move markets in both directions. And it doesn't matter what side you're on, as long as you're on both sides, because you can always get out of one and let the other one run the course and pay you huge. How to trade S&P 500 index options, weekly volatility, right in the mix of the heart of European austerity and major health care reform act is in play, and how that affects the economy along with many other things. How to profit in the S&P 500.